What's up, guys? Mr. Knows Books back today with another video. And today we are talking about book 2 of the Dark Tower series with The Drawing of the Three by Stephen King. And it was actually remarkable how much of a step up I believe this book was from book 1, because that section, that opening part where we get the first of the three into the group, remarkable. First of all, I want to give credit to where credit is due. The audiobook narrator for this novel was insane. Like, hold on. Frank Muller. First of all, rest in peace. But that brother did one of the greatest narration. Like, the way that brother was moving was insane. There is one thing in this book that keeps me from giving it a 5 out of 5. And it's the second section, or the second of the three that is drawn. And we're going to get more into it in the spoilers, but I'm going to say I feel King was controversial / edgy, and I didn't really feel like it was needed. But at the same time, I wouldn't go out of my way to claim that King is anything crazy. I just think that it was really, really jarring to read in this book, and it was really, really unnecessary to have. Usually, I'm not one of those people to go out of my way to be like, oh my God, like, let's cancel this guy because of that. But at the same time, I'm also a realist of like, did you really need this content in this book, regardless of when you put it out, it being okay or it not being seen as a blip or an issue? But let's get into the meat and potatoes. Right now, Roland is on his quest to find the people he is meant to travel to the tower with. And today, with the doors on the island from the end of The Gunslinger, he goes on that journey. So what would I give this book? I'm probably sitting at like a 4.25, 4.5. And you might say, well, Emster, you sounded like you had a pretty big issue with that one section of the book. And I did. And that's the entire part of the score that knocked it down. Because the last person that is drawn and the first are fucking incredible. Those sections had me hooked. I could not stop reading. And when I was driving and listening to it, I literally could not stop. I was like, I need to know. And the tension, the moments, the character, the world felt so incredible. So the characters are a 5 out of... The characters are a 4.5. You see, that's where we might knock the score down. Maybe a 4.25. And we'll get into that in a second. World's a 5 out of 5. Don't care. Debate a wall. Prose. Don't care. Debate a wall. Then you have themes. And I think themes are a 5. I think what Stephen King has been laying out here in terms of when we relate everything to Roland or to certain morals in this world of Midworld. And then the plot's a 5. I think what this plot did, maybe a 4.75 actually. Let me say that. There was a little section where I was like, we maybe could have reworked this a little bit to kind of flow a little bit better. But the rest of it was, I was in. I was fucking in. And this series, it has real potential now. It doesn't have Malazan potential, but it has potential. This could go in number 2. Oh boy, this book is cooking. It's cooking. It's cooking. So, without further ado, about a 4.25 to 4.5 out of 5. Fucking love this book. Please read this series. I think it's very underrated. It's a lot of fun, and it leaves you wanting so much more. So, before getting into spoilers, don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe. And I want to talk about Detta / Odetta. It's my biggest problem with the book. I do not think Stephen King is racist. My problem is you basically acknowledge the portrayal of the character you're doing is racist and still go ahead and do it anyways. Which in some ways you could say, well, Emster, maybe it's a satire, maybe it's blah, 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 blah. I'm not necessarily mad at that, but at the same time, the entirety of the book is not a satire. So let's say The Drawing of the Three was a satire about, racial ties and connections and drug lords and, you just did a giant social commentary book. Okay, I can look at it that way, but it's not that for the vast majority of the book. And at a certain point, it felt like Stephen King wanted to pull the I can just shoot out the N-word card because I'm writing a black woman. And it just felt extremely unnecessary. Really, it did. Like, if there was legitimate reason for it to be in this story, I would have still mentioned it because I still do think it's a little weird. But at the same time, I would be less frustrated about it. But to me, this was just, it felt like we were spamming for the sake of it. It felt like we were kind of just doing things to do it. So for me personally, I'm good off that. And I also feel like the other problem about it is it's by far the weakest part of the book. Of the three that he draws, Odeda's is the worst. It's literally just, and there's some interesting story stuff. So like, for example, I find it really interesting that Odeda has this ability to make people fall in love with her so quick. Like that kind of stuff. I'm like, is that her power? Is that what she has that makes her special? I don't know. And it's also interesting because I believe it's the day she was born or the day that she got hit with the brick on the head. It was like the 13th or the 3rd. It's been a little bit since I read the book. While I'm recording this again, work has just been killer. But there's a lot of stuff here where I'm like, this is really interesting. If only I didn't get the N-word spammed 50 times for no real reason. And again, I just felt like it was extremely unnecessary here from King. And I think it doesn't help that it's by far the weakest of the entire novel narratively. Like, take away the weird race part of the book, of that, section. I think if you even just read it normally, you would be like, this is the worst part. Because in the last part of the book, where Roland basically takes over the person he draws and just goes absolutely, going nuts, that's awesome. And there's a lot of really cool stuff because you learn, about what this guy's doing. What does Roland value? Where does he draw his line? How can things change with Jack Mort? The first part with Eddie, we'll get to that in a second. Fucking remarkable. One of the best sequences, set pieces, whatever you want to call it, in a book I've read. I mean that wholeheartedly. The tension is one of the few times I legitimately was like, holy crap. Like, are we about to get caught with this fucking cocaine strapped to our chest while the police are banging into this airplane bathroom? Meanwhile, it's just Odeda gets run over by the train, which is very tragic. Odeda goes to the hospital. Roland takes Odeda from the hospital to Midworld. The end. Okay. I guess that's the thing. Next. Jack Mort. Oh, bro. So fucking good. It reminded me a lot of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure with Yoshikage Kira. That's all I'm going to say. If you're a JoJo's fan, you know. If you're not, you can look it up, figure it out for yourself. But I love what this does. Because I love that Jack Mort is responsible for the altering of two people that will become very, very close to Roland is through this person. Then he stops Jake from being pushed into the traffic from the gunslinger. So Jake is for sure alive. He wasn't in this book, but you're not fooling me, Steven. You're not fooling me. He's going to be in the Wastelands. Stop playing with me. And for Roland to basically use his body and kill Jack Mort, think again, like, there's just this really, really interesting dynamic of Roland, I think, is really a Jedi. Like, this book, I really feel like may have influenced the way George Lucas worked on the prequels and the way the Jedi were thought of when they were, like the enforcers of the galaxy. Because you see how Roland's dad is very down on, drug users and abusers and all that. And how, like, he looks at law enforcement very favorably because he understands how difficult it is. And he understands what they need to do to maintain the peace. And you're like, okay, so the gunslingers were peacekeepers. Okay, that makes sense. That's really interesting. But then you notice, like, but Roland's also an addict of his own. And that's To the Tower. Which, by the way, I'm tripling down on my theory that Roland's already been to the tower. Because every time people ask Roland, how do we get to the tower? Where are we supposed to go? Roland goes, I don't know. But then he immediately starts walking in a direction. And I think it's like a third person omniscient kind of subtle switch happens. It's like, but Roland knew. I don't think Roland would know if he hasn't been there before. Roland, you psycho. You want to play the game again. And I respect that out of you. I respect the pettiness. I really did love this book. And I think the Jack Moore stuff was awesome because of how fucking crazy this dude was normally before Roland takes over. And I love that Roland doesn't even give him a chance. Like, Roland doesn't even attempt to see him out and to hear him out and to see if he can help him. He's like, yeah, no. You basically helped murder a child because LOL, you felt like it. And you dropped a brick on a black girl's head because LOL, I could. Wow. So at the very end, before Roland leaves, with the medicine ingested, I believe, or whatever it is, he jumps him in front of a train. Incredible stuff. And then we can talk about Eddie. Eddie, by the way, so book awards. I almost forgot. Who is the MVP of this book? It's fucking Eddie, man. Eddie in this book is so incredible. Eddie's also Rookie of the Year. The first time I believe this has ever happened in this channel. It may have happened for Hadrian, but that's Mickey because it's only one POV. The momentum changer is literally the entirety of Eddie's part. I'm glazing. I'm sorry. That, or I should say, actually, the momentum changer is the bathroom scene. When they go into the bathroom and him and Roland are working together to get the drugs transported into Midworld on the island so that he could get off the plane. Oh my God, it was so good. It was actually so fucking good. Sixth Man of the Year, I'm going to say is Jack Mort. I think Jack Mort, in his short time, even in those moments with your head, you're like, holy shit. He is so terrible, but you're so, interested. And you want to know more. And again, that's why I do agree with the assessment that Stephen King is a master character writer. I know we talked about that with some people like Joe Abercrombie and all that, and he's incredible in his own right. But Stephen King is just I'm sorry. What Stephen does, from what I've read of him, I haven't read everything of him, and it's going to be very hard to because he's written a lot of damn books. But what I've read of his ability to flesh out a character it's bar none. I've seen so few people be able to do it. Then, no one got inducted into the Hall of Fame yet. The Why the Fuck Is This Going On award, which is basically me asking why certain events happen, is the entirety of Odetta's part. Now, another interesting thing is since Odetta and Detta became one person again, their name is Susanna. Now, there's a couple things I noticed. One, there's a book called The Song of Susanna, which I'm assuming is about her. Second of all, I believe his ex, or Roland's girl that they talk about in The Gunslinger's name was Susan. That's interesting to me. Also, the final thing, get it, three things, is it's interesting how there's three personalities that merge. That number of 3 is very crucial in this book, and it seemingly means a lot. And it's called restoration. And Eddie's restored, from his drug habit state, from his family that very much so used and abused him in terms of basically he's the fall guy for all of his family's shortcomings. And that scene too, man, when they're with the mob boss, again, Frank Muller, man. Genuinely rest in peace. Shout out to you and your family. His performance of the mob boss, it sounded, as an Italian man, he cooked. That shit sounded like he was straight out of the fucking Godfather. Like Al Pacino was about to walk in and tap him on the shoulder and say, I'm sorry, Sonny, I gotta do what I gotta do. That shit was so good. And seeing his love for his family and while he's addicted to drugs, I think it's interesting that that's where the difference between him and Roland goes. His addiction, it seems, is not more important than the people he cares about. Roland's addiction to the tower, he will be willing to move and sacrifice any and everything to get to the tower. And I love that ending scene where Eddie calls him out on it. And Eddie's like, you don't really give a fuck about us if that tower becomes involved in the picture. If the Man in Black, or if I believe, I forgot the name of the main bad guy, or the King of Red, or the King in Red, if he came over and he said, I can take you to the tower right fucking now, these two have to die, they're dying. Every time. And that kind of stuff, I'm like, that is character writing. That is knowing what your characters would do in certain situations. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. I'm glazing, but this book was fucking incredible. And now we're at a point where we're marching and we're leaving, and I think we're going to find Jake, because Jake, now I'm curious too, does this alter timelines? Also important, I love Eddie with the gun, with Roland at the the mobster's place. His willingness to just sacrifice himself. Oh my guys, this book is so incredible, man. I genuinely am so happy I'm reading this series. I'm so excited to get to book 3. So as always, guys, let me know what you think of this book. Do you agree with my assessment of the Detta Odetta situation? Do you think I'm a little bit harsh on it? Either way, still love the book overall. And as always, guys, this is M2Knows Books. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate each and every one of you. Peace.